On 17th January, two men in the Camp Gully area of Rakaya, roughly 40 kilometers away from Ashburton, found a badly decomposed human body lying in a patch of overgrown scrub and planted pine. The body was later confirmed to be Kirsty Bentley. The body was lying at the bottom of a steep embankment, covered in a thin layer of branches and leaves. She had been placed in the fetal position and was fully clothed in what she had last been seen wearing, with the exception of the underwear that had previously been found at the scene of her disappearance. A large paddock was at the top of an embankment above her, and the location was close to State Highway 72, part of the inland scenic route. The area she was found in is known for being used by illegal cannabis growers, and the men who found her were out looking for a cannabis patch. Initially, they were reluctant to contact police. Kirsty Marianne Bentley was a teenager living in Ashburton, New Zealand, who went missing while walking her family dog on the afternoon of 31st December 1998. After an extensive search lasting several weeks, her body was found in dense scrub approximately 40 kilometers away. Police consider the case to be a homicide, and it remains one of the highest profile unsolved murders in New Zealand. On the day of her disappearance, Kirsty Bentley met a friend at the Ashburton Library at around 10:30 a.m. on 31st December 1998. After doing some shopping, they had lunch at McDonald's around midday. Bentley was dropped off at her home by her friend's sister at around 2:30 p.m. After returning home, her brother John told her that her boyfriend had called and left a message, asking her to call him back. Phone records show she made a call to her boyfriend at 2:38 p.m, but he wasn't there, so she left a message asking him to call her back. From here, it appears Bentley decided to take the family's black Labrador dog Abby for a walk. This was not unusual for Bentley. She often took the dog for a walk to pass the time. John did not hear her leaving the house. A neighbour witnessed her walking by his house with the dog at 3:05 p.m. But from this point on, the exact timeline of what happened to her cannot be clearly established. After the discovery of Kirsty's body, police closed the scene and ordered a no-fly zone over the area as they conducted their investigation. They conducted an extensive scene examination over several days and took plaster casts of tyre tracks in the area. It was the height of summer, and so Bentley's body was in an advanced state of decomposition. She was recovered and transported to Christchurch Hospital, where a post-mortem was conducted. It took 3 days before dental records were used to formally identify the body. Bentley was killed by blunt force trauma to the right side of the back of her head. The blow or blows were inflicted with enough force to severely fracture her skull. The pathologist determined she would have died shortly after the wound was inflicted. Police initially withheld her cause of death from the public for operational reasons. The pathologist believed she was killed soon after she went missing and likely placed in the Camp Gully area the same night, based on an examination of her stomach contents and the state of her body. Police asked for help from the public regarding vehicles that may have been seen in the area at the time. They also asked for cannabis growers to come forward if they had seen anything. These calls to the public did not reveal anything useful. At an early stage in the case, media reported that Sid and John were considered suspects in Kirsty's disappearance. Both denied any involvement, although John acknowledged in media interviews that it was only common sense that police should consider them as suspects. Police later confirmed that they were considered suspects in the investigation. Police conducted a scene examination at the family home in the early stages of the investigation, including carrying out luminol testing. However, the test did not find anything of value to the investigation. Sid was unable to provide a strong alibi for his whereabouts on that day. He initially claimed he had been in Christchurch and Littleton at the time, but later claimed he had hit his head on a cupboard door and forgotten that he had actually been in Ashburton for part of the day. His exact whereabouts at the time remain unknown. Family members have stated they believe Sid was embarrassed to admit whatever it was that he was doing on that day, but they do not believe he was involved in the murder in any way. Police later consulted retired British Detective Inspector Chuck Burton, who stated that in his opinion, the perpetrator was likely to have known Bentley and been close with her, based on the nature of the crime and the way her body was left at Camp Gully. Despite this, police never laid charges against either Sid or John, suggesting no strong evidence of their involvement was ever found. In 2018, police confirmed they did not believe Sid or John were involved in the crime. Police have stated that hundreds of individuals have been considered suspects at one time or another, and a list of several hundred people have never been formally eliminated from the inquiry. At times, the list of suspects has been as small as 20 people. Some possible suspects have received media attention in relation to the case. In the months after Kirsty's death, police asked the public for information about a green camper van, registration number EP9888, that was of interest to the inquiry. The van was described as a 1961 model set up to be used as a camper, with a distinctive comma branding badge attached to the front. The van was either blue or a faded blue-green. It was last registered with the NZTA in 1995. This type of van was commonly used by tourists and drifters at the time, and in many cases these vehicles were not registered. The van was rare, as few as two matching its general description are believed to have ever been in New Zealand. In March 2017, media reported that police were investigating whether Russell John Tully, a local man who murdered two staff members at the Ashburton Work and Income Office in 2014, may have been involved. Tully had been known to camp in the area of Ashburton Kirsty went missing from. Tully strongly denied any involvement. In May 2018, police announced they had eliminated Tully from the inquiry. He had provided a detailed account of where he had been living and working during the time Kirsty disappeared. Police confirmed he had not originally been interviewed because he was living in Nelson at the time and was no longer suspected of any involvement. After Sid's death in 2015, an unidentified woman came forward to say that she suspected her ex-boyfriend had been involved in the murder. He had been a suspect in the original investigation, and they had both been interviewed by police and media at the time in relation to the case. According to an interview with her in 2015, her ex-boyfriend, while intoxicated, had admitted his involvement to her on several occasions. It is unclear whether she ever came forward to formally change her statement to the police. A funeral for Kirsty was held at St. Stephen's Anglican Church in Ashburton on 25 January 1999. Between 500 and 700 people attended. Kirsty's body was cremated and her ashes sealed in a steel urn. The urn was buried in a specially planted memorial garden at the family home. After Sid's death in 2015, the ashes were transferred to Kirsty's mother, Jill. Today marks the 20th anniversary of the disappearance of Ashburton teenager Kirsty Bentley, but police haven't given up trying to find her killer. New DNA techniques are being used 2 decades on. Kirsty's killer has never been found, with the location of the murder just as much of a mystery. Her underwear is now being retested, along with the lead her dog was wearing, in the hope that advances in DNA testing could finally reveal the killer and give Kirsty's family some closure. Had she lived, Kirsty would today be 36 years old. The case remains unsolved.